The room froze when the CFO spoke. He pointed to the single mom everyone thought was just an assistant and revealed she was once the company's brightest analyst, a woman who gave up her career to raise her child alone. The CEO, who mocked his own son, stood speechless as the truth about Aaron Blake changed everything. It was a brisk Monday morning at Summit Tech headquarters in Austin, Texas. The glass tower reflected the rising sun, and inside, staff hurried into Conference Room B for the all-hands meeting. At the head of the long mahogany table sat Charles Whitman, the company's hard-driving CEO, known for his sharp suits, sharper tongue, and obsession with success. At 58, he'd built Summit Tech into one of the fastest-growing software firms in the state. This morning, however, wasn't about new contracts or product launches. It was about his son. Caleb Whitman, 24, had just joined the company as a junior analyst. He was tall, bookish, with an earnest smile, but nerves betrayed him. As he fumbled with his presentation slides, the room filled with murmurs. Charles leaned back, his expression tightening. Finally, he snapped. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're witnessing is nepotism at its worst. My son, born with every advantage, can't even get through a basic presentation?" Gasps rippled. Caleb froze, humiliated. Staff shifted uncomfortably. Some lowered their eyes. And from the corner, Aaron Blake, a 32-year-old single mom and executive assistant, clenched her fists. She wasn't just witnessing a father mocking his son. She was watching cruelty dressed as leadership. After the meeting, the whispers began. In the break room, two employees traded remarks over coffee. "Did you hear what Mr. Whitman said to Caleb? In front of everyone?" "Yeah, brutal. I almost felt sorry for the kid." "Almost? That was humiliating. You think Caleb will even come back tomorrow?" Caleb sat alone in his cubicle, staring blankly at his screen. He could hear them. He always heard them. Aaron walked past, hesitated, then placed a cup of coffee on his desk. "Hang in there," she whispered. He looked up, startled, eyes red. "Why would you even care?" Aaron's voice was quiet but steady. "Because I know what it's like to be underestimated. I know it hurts." That evening, Charles Whitman returned to his sprawling home in Westlake Hills. His wife, Victoria, a socialite active in charity circles, poured him a glass of wine. "How was the meeting?" she asked casually. Charles smirked. "A disaster." Caleb embarrassed himself. "I had to show him tough love in front of the staff. Maybe now he'll toughen up." Victoria frowned. "Charles, he's your son, not one of your managers. You can't treat him like that." But Charles waved her off. "Weakness won't survive in this world. If he can't handle a little heat, he has no business in mine." Little did Charles know, the weakness wasn't in Caleb. It was in the cracks forming all around him. 2 days later, another staff meeting unfolded. Charles was in rare form, barking orders, demanding results. Caleb sat at the edge, silent, hoping to disappear. When Charles mocked him again, "Caleb, why don't you sit this one out before you embarrass yourself further?" The room fell tense. Aaron, seated near Caleb, leaned over. She placed a steady hand on his folder and whispered 5 words that would change everything. "You are not his shadow." Caleb's head jerked up, his eyes locked on hers. Something inside him shifted. For the first time, Caleb pushed back. "Actually, Dad," his voice was shaky, but it grew stronger. "I do have something to contribute." He walked to the projector, opened his laptop, and displayed a set of graphs he'd been working on quietly for weeks. The room leaned in. His data was sharp, his analysis clear, his solution innovative. By the end of his presentation, the staff was nodding. Even a few clapped. Charles stared, stunned. And Erin? She just smiled. In the days that followed, Caleb grew more confident. He stayed late, collaborated with colleagues, even offered fresh strategies for client growth. Staff warmed to him not because he was the CEO's son, but because he was proving himself. But Charles wasn't pleased. In fact, he grew colder. At home, Victoria pleaded with him. "Why are you threatened by your own son? Isn't this what you wanted, for him to succeed?" Charles snapped. He's succeeding because people pity him, not because he's earned it. Yet deep down, Charles knew the truth. Caleb was succeeding where Charles never expected him to. And worse, Erin Blake had become the quiet force behind it. But Erin had secrets of her own. And when they came to light, the company would never be the same. One Friday, Summit Tech held a company-wide strategy session at the Austin Convention Center. Clients, staff, and investors filled the hall. Caleb was scheduled to present a major pitch. As he prepared backstage, Charles cornered Erin. "You've been whispering in my son's ear. Why? What do you get out of this?" Erin held his gaze. "Because someone had to believe in him when you didn't." Charles sneered. "Don't act righteous. You're just an assistant. You don't know what it takes to run this company." But then from behind them, a familiar voice said, "Actually, she does." It was Summit Tech's CFO, Martin Alvarez. He stepped forward. "Charles, maybe you don't remember, but Erin isn't just an assistant. She used to be one of the brightest analysts in this company. She left when her husband walked out, raising a child alone while working 2 jobs. She sacrificed her career for family. And now she's the smartest person in this building, and you don't even see it." The hall erupted in whispers. Staff stared at Erin with newfound respect. Charles froze, color draining from his face. Caleb delivered his pitch flawlessly. Investors were impressed. Staff applauded. The board whispered about leadership potential. Caleb's, not Charles'. Afterwards, Charles confronted Erin in private. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" Erin's voice was calm. "Because I didn't need to prove myself to you. I already know my worth. And so does Caleb." For the first time, Charles felt something he hadn't in years. Humility. He found Caleb by the stage doors. His son looked at him warily. "Caleb." He hesitated. "I was wrong. About everything. About you." It wasn't much, but it was a start. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room isn't the strongest, it's the cruelest. Charles Whitman thought mocking his son would make him stronger. Instead, it revealed his own weakness. It took 5 whispered words from a single mom to ignite courage, expose hidden truths, and remind everyone that respect matters more than titles. In the end, the lesson was clear. Leadership without compassion is failure, and the people we underestimate often carry the greatest strength. One whisper of courage can change a life, a family, even a company. At Goodness Corner, we share the stories that prove kindness and truth are stronger than pride and power. Don't miss the next lesson that could inspire you. Subscribe today and stay with us where every story matters.